Small talk is actually not small. It's big.
Yeah.
Because it opens doors, it starts relationships, it builds trust.
Oftentimes, if I take customers out, I won't talk any business.
It's interesting because what I've noticed is when I'm telling somebody my name and then I go, just call me Z, there's this weird comfort like, oh, she's already giving me her nickname.
If you had an awkward conversation, you tried it, you failed, that person's not laying in bed right now thinking about that interaction with you and how weird it was.
People want to do business with people they like, right? And building that relationship's hyper important.
I think initially, right, people are attracted to confident people, whether it's in a business setting, a personal setting, a new friendship, but confidence attracts people.
All right, welcome everybody to another Carpool Conversations. This is an exciting episode because it's our first ENCORE episode.
Yay.
So a couple months ago now, I put out on LinkedIn 4 different episodes that didn't get to do video. And I was like, if you wanted to hear from these guys one more time, which one do you want? And the small talk episode won with 37%. So very excited to have 2 returning guests here, familiar faces, Zenata Perez and Andrew Steczo, our industry's small talk experts.
Well, we appreciate that, Jacki.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So last time we were together and we're talking about small talk, we covered how to keep conversations going. We had like a ton of takeaways on those. How to approach strangers. That was a big one for me. You guys had some really nice takeaways and just little things that you can do to kind of like break the ice a little bit if you're in a room of people that you don't know. And then how to find connection points was like a really big part of that conversation. And I would encourage anyone listening now, if you haven't listened to the first episode, go back and listen to the art of small talk and then listen to this one too, because this one's going to be different. It's going to have different points, but the same experts. So, and one thing we also did is we did another survey for this one to see kind of like what people want to hear more about when it comes to small talk. And we're going to talk a little bit about situational awareness, but we want to talk about the results of that survey. So here's the results of that survey, and we'll walk through these for this episode. Transitioning chat to business. Mm-hmm. That was 24% of people. Balancing professional humor, which I thought was really funny for our industry.
I'm with that.
I feel like the people that don't have professional humor don't care that much that they don't have professional humor.
I agree with that.
I wasn't too surprised. That was 14% of people. Reading the room, which I thought would be bigger.
I did too.
10%.
I expected that to be a larger number as well.
Yeah. And then remembering their name was 52%.
That's unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we're going to walk through these. Let's start with the least. So we're going to start with reading the room. Let's talk about that a little bit. And we're going to spend the most time on some tips and tricks to remembering people's names.
Okay.
So let's talk about reading the room. How do you do it?
A couple things is being prepared, right? So knowing where you're going. So if you're walking into a room of, a bunch of real estate executives, kind of understanding what they might want to talk about. Mm-hmm. What is something that, and it doesn't always have to be business related, but understanding your audience, understanding kind of what you're walking into, like what is the situation. And we talked about this a little bit on the last one is, doing some research on LinkedIn too. Who's in that room? And do they have some interests that you saw on LinkedIn or something where you look them up on social media, or you look them up, you Googled their name, right? So, and you saw a little bit about their background. But I think that's kind of the first part of it is in reading the room, and then the energy. Mm-hmm. I know the first thing I do is I'm like, what kind of energy are people engaged? Are they talking? Are they networking? Are they all kind of in their little bubbles? Mm-hmm. Is everybody kind of just not really, talking and hanging out?
I wonder if it's almost like individual too, right? Because some people will be talking to everybody. Some people won't. Some people have high energy. Some people will have low energy.
And some people more naturally, we talked about this last time, introverts versus extroverts.
Yeah.
But I think, in our pre-flight, it's also timing, right? Like not just reading the room, but we talked about it a little bit. Like some of these events here in Vegas are, meant to be very social. You're not meant to corner someone, quote unquote.
Right.
It's really meant to, talk to as many people as possible, right? And
Yeah.
so, this might not be the time to have a 45-minute conversation with someone,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And the same thing too, you catch someone in passing between, a meeting or whatever they have going on, a lot of people in passing, you can have a short 2-3 minute conversation, but understand, they probably got to go somewhere. People are checking their watch, looking at their schedule, right? We see a lot of that, especially here at this event. So just understand that, depending on the timing, it might be a very short connection.
Yeah.
But that could lead to something else. But just be mindful of the fact that there's a million things going on. People are moving all over, right?
So how do you know, how can you tell you're talking to somebody, your conversation, is lasting 5 minutes? How do you read the person?
This is the biggest thing. If you see this, and most people wear watches.
Or looking at their phone.
I think I look around.
Yep.
Or looking at their phone.
I notice myself doing that sometimes when I'm like, okay, I've been with this person for 20 minutes. This whole thing is an hour.
That's
right?
a good
So
point.
I'll start looking around for who else? Is there anyone else that I need to be talking to, or can I spend more time with this one person?
And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I enjoyed this conversation. I need to go catch up with so-and-so. I need to make my rounds. I'll send it off. I'm like, hey, I love this, but I got a little bit of time. I need to go make my rounds, catch up with a few more people, and just, again, be mindful, because people like myself, Z, and even you, Jackie, we could get caught for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Then again, you've wasted a half or a quarter of the whole event on one person that may have 1,000 people. Not that they're not worth it, right?
Right.
Spread the love.
Yeah.
I think one of my rules too is I mentioned this to you before is don't make it weird. Just, I mean,
No,
just
100%.
just kind of understand it, pause, and pivot. And part of what I would do is say, well, I'll let you get back to it. I know you got a lot going on.
100%.
Or it's a busy evening, so I'm sure you have a lot. Yeah, I have a lot of other places you have a lot of other places to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think also in reading the room, so I do some stuff in entertainment, and it's crazy because you'll walk in a room and like a networking event there, and at the beginning nobody's talking. It's kind of like they're sizing each other up. Like who because in that world it's a lot of I got to get to the right person that's going to get it's so, I mean, yes, that kind of exists in all business environments, but it's a lot more cutthroat there.
Yeah.
So it's like
very bureaucratic business.
It's very just everybody's looking around, and it's kind of, I don't know, and I'm always kind of the odd duck because I'm just walking,
who's going to make the first move?
Just walking, and I'm just like, hey, so, and they're like, who's this girl? But no, I agree with you. I mean, just don't make it weird. And recognize it, right? So that's a really big sign too. I've noticed if you're talking to somebody and they're looking around the room, they're like, okay.
Somebody called me out on it.
They're not engaged.
And it was really embarrassing.
Once you lose eye contact, if they're going to their phone, their face, or they're looking around, to your point, say something. Hey, I know you're busy. You got a lot going on. We can catch up some other time. Or
here's my card.
Here's my card, or whatever the case is. Yeah. So reading those, the facial cues, right? The body language is huge.
Yeah. And I think just not taking it personally too. Just understand everybody's there to meet people and stuff. So if somebody is looking around the room, it doesn't mean they didn't enjoy the conversation, they didn't get things out of it, but there's an agenda.
Sure. They have their own agenda, right? They want to meet people, and you kind of maybe caught them. They were about to go talk to somebody else about a different topic, or they were warming up for a different conversation. You caught them off guard. They're like, oh no, Andrew just messed me up because threw me off guard, right? So you don't know what they have planned, right? So it's not personal, and but just leaving them with, hey, can we find a better time to chat? If it's someone you really,
a CTA.
Yeah.
Exactly. Give them your card. Let's connect. I'll be reaching out.
I'll give you a shout out on LinkedIn. Let's talk. Let's talk when we have more time. Kind of.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. So the second one was balancing professional humor.
Oh boy.
I think a lot of you kind of mentioned this last time too, is kind of poking fun at yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many things you can just.
I'm thinking more just knowing our industry, but if there's an innuendo or something like that, staying professional,
right?
But still not being dry,
right?
But figuring out how to still have humor.
We're selling auto parts here, or taking care of automobiles, and again, it is very important. But at the end of the day,
it gets you from A to B.
Yeah, it sure does. But some people take life too seriously. Some people take a job too seriously. Whatever the role is, right? You got to have fun. I'm a firm believer in that, and I'm known for being a little bit of a jokester, and as Jackie's giggling here, and and throwing quick zips in there, one-liners and whatnot, and a lot of it's delivery, right? So you can't be inappropriate, right? Obviously, there's lines there. Knowing your audience is another one, right? So you might get away with a little more of a gray area joke depending on your audience versus,
maybe read the audience.
Yeah, that's another one, reading the room, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
What you can get away with in terms of being, funny and whatnot. But,
and maybe your situation, like, are you at a networking event or are you at dinner?
Yeah. And
correct.
you mentioned before, if you know one of the people in the group, maybe you don't know everybody there, but you know one person. Well, that kind of opens up to a little bit more of a comfort zone of
sure.
where you can say something funny and then maybe it'll kind of resonate with the rest of it.
Sure.
You hope it will.
Yeah. You know what else I'm thinking now is like, I'm either making fun of myself because I feel like it lets everyone's guards down when I'm like, I make fun of my height or just whatever. But another one is if I like you, I tend to poke fun at you. Like, I'm mean to you. But it's like a nice way.
I know. All the listeners, if Jacki's been mean to you, she really likes you.
If I'm nice to you, I probably don't like you.
I know.
I'm just kidding. But like, I'm just thinking too, like in a professional sense, you're in a group of people, you're not just with that person.
Yeah.
That could be like, there's a lot of people like that, that's how I feel like I get closer with someone, is like I feel like we have an inside joke. I'll poke fun at them, because they wore the wrong shoes the other day and they were complaining about it or something, and now I have something on them.
Right.
So I'll just.
But it's lighthearted, right? People let their guard down, right? To your point, when you get with a group of people and maybe not everyone knows each other, you're not sure. People kind of stiffen up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They're not sure how to react, right? But you make a simple joke or make fun of yourself, kind of people relax a little bit, and oh, Jackie's so funny, kind of lead in, introduce people, or so on and so forth. So it really helps. Loosen the mood.
Yeah. I think I do that because I'm always uptight in rooms where I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
So like when there is a comic relief, I am usually grateful for it. Like the person that gets the guards down and stuff. Like,
and I think we talked about this. The world's heavy. Like everybody wants to laugh. Like a little bit of just even something silly.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the one-liners, the dad jokes.
Yeah, for sure.
But just keep it professional.
Just keep it professional.
That's the point here.
But yeah, and I think also to your point when you're saying like if you like somebody, you're usually mean to them. But I know this person.
Yeah, you know this personally.
But you do it in a way that it's not threatening. Right. So it's just kind of like you're like, okay, like when you were joking with me when we first met, I was like, okay, I actually like her though. I'm gonna let her continue.
Well, but that's again.
You're not going to report me
before I get back at her. Yeah.
But it's about delivery again, because you're doing it with a giggle, a smile on your face.
Yeah.
The words are coming out of your mouth might be poking a little fun either at you or at yourself, but your delivery with your smile and how you're carrying yourself, people get that, right? It's like.
I think it helps too if you're just as hard on yourself as you were with you make fun of yourself and then you make fun of them. They're like,
right.
Everyone's just getting thrown under the bus here.
Absolutely.
But smiling is a big, smiling helps, right? Because it makes you softer in your delivery as well. Just kind of just not like if you're making fun of somebody with a harsh face, obviously that's like, whoa.
Oh, Jacki really doesn't like me.
Yeah, no, that's just her face.
She's not nice.
Yeah, honestly, like the whole when you're at rest and you're just thinking really hard or something, you should really be aware of how you come across.
Yeah.
Try to smile.
Right.
Or like, was it Tyra Banks? I'm aging myself. Was she always
Tyra Banks?
Tyra Banks?
Smize, yes.
Smizing with your eye?
With your eyes. So
I learned something new today. I've not heard of this.
Like walk and just have this like clown smile on your face, but you can be smiling with your eyes without.
That's what they would teach the models.
Yeah, that's what
so when they would shoot them, they didn't look so they look softer, right? They
not
look
cheesy,
and they look relatable,
not miserable and angry.
There was that I'm not in the modeling industry, obviously. Maybe I should be, but with a stone face, like like that, like unapproachable face, like that. What was Zoolander, the Blue Steel or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, so
they're gonna see you walking the show later.
I got the Blue Steel.
So later, Andrew, when I see you around, I'm gonna smile.
Yeah. Okay. Hey. Yeah, I like that. I learned something the other day. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good point. Okay, let's move on to this third one. Transitioning chat to business. I think this is a really good one. So you start small talk with somebody that you actually need something from. Like you want to, it's sales, or you want them to help you with something, or maybe you're approaching a potential mentor. Like it could be 1,000 things. So how do you go from, hey, are you having a good day? I like your shoes. Like all the things we've already talked about, giving compliments. Now they're talking to you, their guards down. Like, how do you transition to a business conversation without reversing all the work you just did, and building a relationship? And then they're like, oh, they just wanted something out of me. So here we're there.
So I think, we talked about a little bit of this in the pre-flight is, again, it comes down to timing. And specifically at this event, we probably aren't going to have the time to have a 20, 30-minute conversation. And as much as we're all here in Vegas for business, and it does get done in a lot of these networking events and in passing, there's not enough time to really accomplish what you want to accomplish. So, I said this to someone the other day. Oftentimes, if I take customers out, I won't talk any business. If I take them to dinner, I won't start. If the customer wants to lean into business, if they start, I'll strictly talk about relationships, whether it's face to face or if it's at dinner. If they want to open the business door, I'll jump through it. But I may play golf with someone for 4 hours. I may be at a 3-hour dinner and never talk one bit of business.
Yeah.
Only build a relationship, right? The business time will come, right? And people want to do business with people they like, right? And building that relationship is hyper important. So, there will be a transition, and again, here, my personal opinion is, there are a lot of shorter conversations. And so, to your point, Jacki, don't undo what you just did. Say, I loved our conversation. I would love to catch up. Now's not the time to get into a business conversation. Or, I'd love to chit chat with you about being a mentor. I'd love to talk more, next week when you're in the office, or, is there a good time? I'll shoot you an email kind of thing where, again, you had a great lighthearted conversation. You've built a relationship, and and again, a lot of these people here specifically, you've been doing your meetings all day. You've been talking business all day. Yeah. It's these network events. You just want to relax a little bit and, maybe have a cold one and chit chat with some industry peers. And, we've all get frazzled at the end of a 12, 14-hour day, or you even, us extroverts, I don't want to talk to anybody anymore, right? Like, I'll keep the short conversations.
I'm all talked out.
I'm all talked out. As shocking as that sounds. Yeah. But again, it's really, coming back to the timing, and then, understanding, reading the room. We just kind of talk about that at all. There's a correlation there, and understanding that, hey, this, even though you really you got this person, you've been trying to track them down, you really want to have that conversation, you got to understand where you're at, and just build that bridge for the next conversation. Because would you rather have, 5 minutes in a noisy room, 5 more minutes in a noisy room, or have someone's, total attention for 30 minutes on a Zoom call in your offices, right?
Yeah.
You'd much rather have the latter, right? So,
yeah, something we did when I was in medical sales is like, kind of like warming up the sale. But I think like a lot of people who are very career driven, like I don't mind at all when people come to me and being like, oh, I love what you do. I want to do something similar. Like, I would love to have a conversation with you sometime if you're willing to get on a call. Like, I don't feel offended by that at all. Like, I'm like, I would love to help you. This is like what I do. I love it, Yeah. So, it goes back down to reading the room.
You do it very softly. Yeah, do it very softly, and then plant that seed. Like, hey, I'd love to have a conversation. Now's not the time. It's been a long day. Yeah,
you've been observing. Like
sure.
One of the things I do, like in managing sales teams, I'm always saying break bread with people. Like, take them to lunch, go to dinner, get out of the office. And I'm the same way. I don't talk business anymore because that's people. Anybody can come in and talk business because you've got competitors. Right. And they're going to come in and kind of do the same thing. But if you're going to be that person that's kind of the light of their day, somebody who's different, right? So gets to know them, they get to know you. Now there's a personal relationship. Back to your point, I always say that people buy from who they like, because at the end of the day, everybody's going to come in with their quote, and we're in the sales side, right? Saying that, or just in general, like you're going to have other business conversations. So you can kind of have a break in the day. And you're like, oh my God, that was so nice to just go to lunch and talk about like whatever, what they're passionate about, what they're doing this weekend, where they're going to travel to next. But I think it's a great point. I try to not talk business. I mean, I'll always kind of throw it in there like, hey, when you have time, this was a great lunch, or this was a great, chit chat, catching up. When you have time, let's get together and then, actually get back to what we're, trying to accomplish together is in the business side. But I just wanted to get to know you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You see, like, even culturally, right? Like, you go south of the border, it's relationships first.
Oh, 1,000%.
Long before, like, they want to learn who you are long before, you get to the business part. Like, you do not talk business, right? You do the relationship, which I really appreciate that about, our counterparts to the South and learning that culturally. And I think we could learn a lot from that, right?
Yeah.
And not rushing it, right? Because, you don't want to, shoot your shot when, maybe you haven't built a relationship.
I agree, though. I think there's parts of Europe where I go for work, and I mean, I'll have like a 10-hour meeting, seriously, because you'll go to lunch with the person, you'll go back and do business, and then you'll go to dinner, and they'll bring their family. And to me, that's when somebody's like willing to just give up that much of their day to spend with you. It's, for me, I mean, it's like that's half the battle. You've won that part of that. You know, it becomes a friendship.
And I think you sparked something there in my mind. Also, if they want you to meet your significant other or your family, that's huge,
it's huge,
right? They're bringing you into their world, right? Yes, absolutely. So if I've had numerous times where customers say, "Hey, I want you and your wife to come fly out and have dinner with me and my wife," or whatever the case is, and that's awesome, right? And then you get your significant others talking and bonding, and then their wife really likes your wife or husband, or whatever the case is, right? Insert SO here, but that's huge, right? That's building that relationship and that next level of the relationship, right? Like, oh, I know his kids or I know his family, and it really takes things to the next level.
And I think just the last thing I would put on that is you read the person, right? So if they turn to business, then obviously they're kind of done with the small talk and they kind of want to get there to the business point. But what I try to do is make sure I'm building that relationship as much as I can. But you also have to feed off their energy, right? So if they're kind of taking it there, then obviously you pivot with them. I think that's another big kind of understanding social cues, understanding kind of where the conversation is going, because it could be, back to your point, somebody's not comfortable with small talk. So you've been kind of chatting them up and then they're like, okay. And I think that kind of goes back to, what do you do when it gets awkward?
Yeah.
Right. What do you do when it small talk fails? Which it happens.
Yes, we were going to talk about that. It's not in my notes. Yeah. How do you recover?
I think it goes back to humor. Yeah. And I think also back to the point, just like pause and recognize it and then be like, okay, well, that was awkward. Sure, you're ready to go.
I didn't mean, and you can make a joke about that. I didn't mean to make this weird. I apologize, right? My bad.
Didn't mean to intrude. Yeah. Like
you were probably having a much better time before I got here. Yeah. So let me exit stage left.
Right. I'll try my stand-up later.
You guys just nailed like 5 good comebacks. And I'm sitting here trying to add to it. And I'm like, I have nothing. Those are great. That's awesome. All right. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk about remembering their name. But before we do that, we should talk about why that's so important. Because I do think when someone says, "Hi, Jacki," versus like, "Hi," it does make a difference. Like, you immediately feel like you pick up where you just left off, and they must remember,
right,
things about you, and they actually have genuine interest. So it does help to remember names. That being said,
I have a very difficult name.
Yes, you do, but that makes it easier to remember, in my opinion.
I think it's harder to remember because, well, first of all, the pronunciation is always difficult for people.
And it is what?
It's Zenata.
Zenata, okay.
But, I mean, a lot of people say
Zenata. Yeah.
Zenata.
Zenata.
So here's what's funny. Yeah, so when you're in Europe, like, they don't say A like an American would. It's ah, right? So, I mean, I'm just, okay, Zenata's fine, whatever you, but that's a lot of why I go by Z, because it's just easier. And I feel like that's more memorable, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's interesting because what I've noticed is when I'm telling somebody my name and then I go, just call me Z, there's this weird comfort, like, oh, she's already giving me her nickname.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay.
Like those association things too. Like,
yes.
Like Jessica Delicious. Years ago, I was like, I never know how to say your last name. And she was the chair of Women in Auto Care at the time. And she goes, it's like delicious.
She said the exact same thing to me.
Like, I'll never forget that.
I would never forget that. And we were talking about association. We were talking about A to Z. We were joking before, my name's Andrew. That's an easy one to remember. First letter of the alphabet. But A to Z, that's how and I've been mispronouncing your name. I appreciate you. Appreciate you clarifying.
Most of the industry has been.
For me. But, again, I'm a huge fan of association, right? Whether it's a nickname or, Bad Boy Bill, Wacky Jacki, or,
Please don't say that on air. I don't want that.
Hey, I had to have a joke in there. But, or using somebody famous, or if you have a relative, right, or anything you can use. I'm a huge fan of association. Another big one that's out there, is using it like 3 times in 3 minutes. So, you introduce somebody and ask a question immediately, right, and use their name again. Jacki, what do you do in your off time? And Jacki, what do you try to use it 3 times in a couple minutes? The 3x3 is the rule, right? So try to use their name 3 times in 3 minutes, and that'll, really help you remember. And again, people have different, skill sets, different tips, tricks, and whatever's going to work for you, like use those things.
I also think
that's a good one.
People are merciful, though. They do give grace, I think, especially in like environments like this where you meet like 30 people a day. I don't think admitting like, what was your name again? I can't pinpoint it.
How many badge readers do we have, right? You see it all the time.
But you don't want to. I'm terrified to be that person. Like, I try so hard not to look down, or wait till they look away. And I'm like, who was
You're kind of doing the side eye, see if you can see the badge and it's covered by their jacket or something.
The best thing that I learned, and I think it's quite common, but like, if somebody comes up and you don't know their name, you can introduce them to the person next to you, and then they'll introduce themselves to that person. Absolutely. And then you get their name.
Oh, hey, this is have you guys met? Yeah. No, I've used that one before too, right? This is Jackie. This is before you act like you're 100%. That's a good trick. That's a great trick.
That was one of the best tricks I've ever learned, and I use it like 1,000 times a day at this show.
I definitely try to do this. I've never heard of the 3x3.
3x3.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. But I do try to repeat their name like at least once. So I'm like, okay, let me get this, because me having a difficult name, I'm very cognizant of, okay, know their name or understand, and also pronunciation, because back again, like most people cannot pronounce my name right. So I'm always like, all right, well, how exactly do you say that? I want to make sure I'm saying it right. And I think that's also a level of respect. So if you ask somebody if they have a name that's a little bit more unique, then you ask them, I want to make sure I'm saying it right. How do you say this? I think there's like a level of comfort that they, like a guard gets down, because they're like, okay, this person's being respectful. They want to say my name right. They're not just, going to butcher it.
I don't even notice it. People say Lutz a lot instead of Lutz.
Lutz?
Yeah.
You don't notice it?
But I mean, I don't care.
My last name is butchered all the time. So
what do they say? How do you...
Steczo. For everybody, the C is like a T, Steczo. So it's Czech. C is like a T, right? So phonetically, it's Stetzo. But yeah, so I'm used to that too, right? So, but there's other things, like I said, if you can use that, we talked about a little bit yesterday. I think, you got to be careful with this one. But especially if you're in a networking event, like you can use your phone, right? If you get your phone out for a second, like, okay, Jackie's in, an orange shirt and a black blazer, Z's in a, blue shirt and a black blazer, or, this guy has glasses, or Josh has a gray shirt, or whatever it is, right? And same thing in meetings too. If you're in a boardroom with a bunch of people, most people have notepads. There's nothing wrong with, no one knows what notes you're taking. My first notes are like, okay, Dave's got a gray shirt on. This guy's wearing, so that way I make sure I remember the names. And again, you got to be careful there. You don't want to just meet somebody and be like, hey, hold on a second, let me get my phone out and let me take your picture too. And for my contact.
The names I'm best at are like I remember most Brian's, because my dad's name was Brian. My second son, his name is Brian.
Okay.
So like whenever I meet a Brian, I always say, my dad's name is Brian. It's like one of my family names, or like, is it a Y or an I? Like asking those.
So that's a big one.
That helps
too.
You remember.
Yeah, if you can associate it with someone that a family member, someone close to you that has that same name, you will not forget their name.
Yeah.
Right. If you can associate, like my dad's name was Larry. Anybody Larry, I never forget it. Right. Like same sort of thing. I'm an Andrew, so I remember those guys pretty well. But yeah, just trying some sort of association, I think is huge.
Yeah.
Well, I always, even if I'm going to save somebody's phone number, I'll put like a dash Vegas or dash, whatever, wherever.
Broad while you're here.
Yeah, like here, yes. But like, or dash New York, or just something that I remember, like where you met this person.
I usually do a company name or something like that. I'll do, parentheses, auto care host, or, Sensata director, something.
Or we had a funny banter, right? And I learned something about this person, and I'll put it in there, like, I don't know.
Something to remember him by?
Yeah.
The one about the dog or something.
Yeah.
Like that. I totally see that. Yeah. So we covered all those, and we have a few more minutes. I wanted to talk about two more things if we can fit them in. One of them is being a better receiver of small talk, because we've talked so far about approaching people. How do you lead a conversation? How do you, become better at approaching people with small talk? But we didn't talk yet about how to be a better receiver of small talk to make it easier on the person trying to have small talk with you.
Well, I would say listening, right? So just be a better listener. It's okay. So for Andrew and I, we both are chatty Chuck, and chatty Kathy, A to Z. But I think also taking the moment to pause and listen, to learn about these people and let people talk about themselves. Even introverts, I've said this before, everyone's interesting, right? Everybody has something in their life that's interesting. And if you can get to the heart of what that person likes to talk about or has passion about, then you're allowing them to speak. And I think people like that. They feel good. And I think also making people feel comfortable enough to be the one that's actually, delivering and speaking and talking more. I think it just,
approachability maybe is a thing. Yeah.
Being a better listener and we touched on this last time, Andrew, but being interested in what they have to say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, one of my mentors always says, "Be interested, not interesting."
I love that.
Right. So if you can,
I think you should do both.
But I don't disagree with you. But truly, you're not wrong, Leslie. I don't disagree with you. But
fight.
But first and foremost, like
the first time we disagree. No, I'm kidding.
All marriages have those. But no, I think but think of how it comes across, right? So like we could put on a show, right? We could run a room, right? That's kind of the people we are, but it comes across in a different way, right? To people as we're connecting one-on-one and being interested in them truly, as opposed to just being an interesting, exaggerated over the top kind of personality, that we kind of have, right? And then there's a time and a place for that, right? There's a time to, be in the shine and the spotlight, like we talked about before. But, I think for us, it's easy to be approached, but the inverse is true to some of our previous conversation here in this episode is, you got to do the same thing, right? I'd love to have small talk, but hey, I got to run, or, I don't mean to cut you off. I had a great conversation, but, I got to keep working the room, or, so those same rules we just discussed earlier in this episode still apply to the opposite, right? But I think you mentioned something, being approachable, right? That comes back to, what was the I thing you guys called it?
Smizing,
right? Well, but if you're sitting in the corner and you're like, you're a wallflower and you got this stone face look, like
if you have a scowl, you're not going to attract people to you.
Yeah. But if if you kind of look like you're lighthearted, having a good time, you're laughing and joking, cutting up, you're much more approachable.
Yeah, 100%. I also
confidence.
We have confidence here too. That's like our next thing. But one thing I was talking to somebody about yesterday. So I'm working on another episode about being a yes and person.
Okay.
It kind of comes from improv, right? I think there's a book I just discovered I need to read before I do this episode about being a yes and person. And I think that could really be applied to small talk. So when somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, how's your week going?" You don't just say, "Good." And then it's like, okay, you say yes and then say something else. Right. So it's like, really good. I'm really busy, but it's all been good stuff and I've got, a lot going on. That's been awesome. And then kind of add to it, because then they have something to say too and be like, yeah, same. It's been busy, and it can keep going.
Sure. But I think also in asking that question, you could frame it slightly differently. Like instead of saying, "How's your week going?" could one word, what's your favorite part of your week so far, right? That's like, what's harder to give a one word answer, right?
Open-ended questions.
Open-ended questions.
So what's been keeping you busy this week? Right. So
what's taking most of your time? What's,
Yeah. So there's a way for them to elaborate, because the one word answers are tough. And then you're like, ooh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, do they not want to talk to me, or are they just not going to?
I just asked my kids how school was, or is it good? Like, that's all I get is good. You went there for 8 hours and all you get is good.
At least you get that. Be like, what'd you do at school today? Nothing. Like, I doubt that. I highly doubt that. Okay. So the last one was confidence.
Yeah.
So much of this is confidence.
Well, I think initially, right, people are attracted to confident people, whether it's in a business setting, a personal setting, a new friendship, but confidence attracts people. So I think if you're confident, then you can kind of help drive that confidence within the conversation. I mean, it's a kind of a tricky thing, but
I think it comes back to like how you carry yourself and don't take yourself too seriously, and like that lightheartedness, because none of us are perfect, right? And you have kind of that mentality. It makes you more approachable
for yourself.
Sorry, Jackie. But and again, not taking yourself too seriously, and just you're gonna have conversations that don't go well, or you're gonna maybe make a joke that doesn't go that well.
Land.
It doesn't land, right? You're how much was it? A whale way? Was it? Right?
But I think it's also energy, right? So if you're bringing energy, which also helps with confidence, I think that's another thing, because if low energy will then kind of drive that same shift in the room you're in, or in the circle you're in that you're talking to, or the person. But if you have energy and you're exuding confidence, it's kind of it's contagious.
Sure.
Right.
I think there's a whole nother episode about building confidence, because, in the last episode, I told the story about how I went to my first ever podcast conference, and I was very much outside of my comfort zone. Definitely the newbie on the block. Didn't know anybody, and like ate by myself in my room.
No, I'm curious. Now we all feel bad.
Yeah, I know, right?
In a room.
give me your pity. But I think confidence has everything to do with it, because when I'm at, in automotive aftermarket events, I small talk everybody. Like, it's not scary to me whatsoever, and I love it, and it doesn't drain me. It's fine. So there's really needs to be, and it's probably different for everybody, but steps to like build confidence and like look into that. Google it. Just try things to like help build your confidence, because small talk will be a lot easier.
And it is you got to know yourself to lead yourself, kind of thing. And yesterday, I was in meetings, going around meeting people all day long, yada yada yada, and I had a couple of receptions, but I took a break. I knew I was frazzled. I've been talking all day. I went to my hotel room for an hour and a half.
Needed a reset.
Sat by myself, listened to some music, talked to the family for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I knew that like I could not carry on through the evening with, giving my top game unless I took a break for a minute, right? And kind of just got out of here for a few minutes and reset and came back after it. But I was better for it. Once I got to the receptions, I was rejuvenated. I was ready to chatty chuck it up and shake some hands and kiss some babies.
I've never seen a not talkative Andrew.
Well, that
would be a strange sight.
Well,
that'd be the same with Z.
Are you okay? Can I get, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just tired.
Just staring.
Catch me on a Thursday in Vegas.
My brain is mush. Yeah. Well, let's land this plane. Let's go around the room and just say, what are you hoping the big takeaway from this episode is?
My big takeaway would say that, small talk is actually not small. It's big.
Yeah.
Because it opens doors, it starts relationships, it builds trust. So I think if people kind of take anything away from this, is just think of like the bigger picture of small talk. Another word is small, but and what it could lead to.
Right. That's the starting point. Yeah.
Right.
It's not where you finish, right?
Right.
That's a great one.
No, that's awesome. I love that. No, I think, I think Z made a couple of great points there, and again, remembering people's names. And I think the biggest thing is, there's a lot of stuff out there, right? We talked about a few things, 3x3, association, these other methods. Is try it. Try all the stuff. You got to practice, right? And you're going to make mistakes, and things aren't going to go well, and you're going to forget names. And there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I apologize. I forgot your name," or whatever the case is. And again, when you meet 1,000 people in a day, it gets more difficult. But yeah, just get out there, right? And have the conversations and try these different techniques to remember names or to start small talk, or the things kind of we talked about in the first episode as well. And you're going to make some mistakes, and you're going to have some conversations that don't go well, but in the end, you'll get better at it, right? And you'll be better for it.
Yeah. I think mine is really, there's a lot of grace out there. Like, give grace, receive grace. And if you're an overthinker, like I am trying not to be, just know, like, if you had an awkward conversation, you tried it, you failed, that person's not laying in bed right now thinking about that interaction with you and how weird it was.
Jacki came up to me.
So,
what a weirdo.
Anyone who really does want to improve this and are really hard on themselves, which, a lot of us are, keep trying. I think it comes more naturally. Definitely build your confidence, but just know, like, it's worth trying, because a fail is not like a massive fail, in this sense. It's all small. Don't sweat it. Yeah, that's kind of mine. Well, thank you guys. This was a really good first encore episode.
Love it. No,
awesome.
Love it. Thank you very much. We appreciate you you having us, and I really enjoyed your company again, ladies, and hopefully we'll get to do it a third time at some point.
What's a third encore?
What's the third encore?
Yeah, what's the third encore? We got to think of a better word.
Oh.
Yeah.
Standing ovation. Standing ovation. Yeah, there we go.
Well, you kind of hit on the confidence thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think also just, when you talk about small talk, and again, it comes naturally for you and I, but I'll just leave with this. I actually had a meeting with someone that I had not known before, so the new person, and he gave me a big compliment. He said, "Listen, I bet when you meet people, you end up being the light of the day for them."
Aww.
And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Because you're just funny, and you just kind of take the conversation to like play." Because I recommended a movie he should watch, and then he sent me an email, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm dying. Send me more recommendations." And it wasn't even it was a very business conversation, but he's like, you kind of just broke the air, and I didn't realize at that point I'd been all day doing these business calls, and I didn't realize that I just kind of needed like a relief. I don't want to talk about
that's nice.
Yeah, so I think also just being memorable. Try to a little bit of tidbit to be memorable, and to really we live in a world now where everything's so polished. So I think when you can just be humble and not be afraid to just, to your point, screw up. There's an awkward moment.
Laugh about it. Keep going.
There's a silly moment. I'm sure Andrew has many of them.
Sure do.
And like you said, Jacki, you're like, I just kind of poke fun of myself when it gets a little bit weird. But I think that remembering to be human. And I think just we're moving to all this robots, AI, everything again is so polished, kind of perfect. But remember, like, we are okay to make a mistake and to just kind of have an awkward moment and just,
laugh about it and keep
because I think that's what people are missing. And when I think about just in general what I do in sales, the connection, right? The human connection, that we're just people.
We're just humans.
We're just humans.
We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah. We make mistakes. Yeah. We're not perfect.
No, that's awesome.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. Yes.